Well, thank you very much for your time. It's
Um,
so nice to see you.
uh, well, I know not a lot about your part of the world, but I
Okay.
did read and research a little bit the background of the refugee camps, and from the work of many other permaculture colleagues, especially Rosemary Morrow, who's worked in many similar situations. I have some awareness of the issues, but I have never worked or been in those environments at all. The closest thing
Hmm.
was probably I've been in some Bedouin camps in Palestine in 1994 when we were in Israel, and uh, understand something about that basic problem of nomadic people without a agricultural heritage, then stuck in a place, and a very harsh place for
Hmm.
agriculture.
Yeah, I will give you a brief about the situation and the project.
Yep.
Um so the Sahrawi people were nomadic people living in Western Sahara before 75. The country was colonized by Spain, and then Morocco invaded the country, and the people were living like a simple nomadic life. They didn't have weapons or anything. So they have been running from a bloody war, and thankfully Algeria was welcoming us, and they settled down in the refugee camp in the southwest part of Algeria. First people arrived in the late 70s, and now the majority of the Sahrawis live in the refugee camps. Some people live in Morocco because they couldn't make it during the war. They couldn't run, and some we have some in Mauritania, some in Spain, but the majority lives in the refugee camps. And so people heavily depend on international aid since they came here.
Wow. A
Um,
long time in that
Yeah, yeah.
situation.
So this international aid is unfortunately decreasing every time, and yeah, like we have like high numbers of anemia due to lack of food and food diversity, especially in women. Like there is high percentage of anemia, like 60% in those who are aged between 18 and 45. Um, I was studying in Algeria in high school, and I saw many people graduating and having some university diploma, and then coming back to the camps and having no job opportunities, and they end up doing something else. So I saw there is many problems in the camps that needed to be fixed, and eventually I just dropped out from high school and came back to the camps because I wanted to do something. I started studying an English course here in the camps, and my father used always to motivate me to grow something like coriander and sell
Right.
it in the market. I usually like grow two in 1 meters of coriander, and when it and when it grows, I cut it and sell it in the local market.
Mm.
Um, so I was studying 1 hour and a half in the day, and I had to do something else during the day because no one would hire you for a job if you have 1 hour and a half in the morning. So
Mm.
I grew up a small garden next to my house. So I took agriculture as a field to practice my English, and I found agriculture very nice, but also it was something I wanted to solve a big problem here in the camps. So in 2018, I created the Nomad Garden. I faced many challenges, and I'm still facing because here in the Hamada Desert there is many challenges. Um, we have like strong sandstorms. Uh, in the summer, the heat gets up to 52 degrees Celsius. Um, there's lack of water. If everything goes well, nothing breaks. Every person receives 60 liters per person per day.
Oh,
Um,
not much.
yeah, it's not enough per person, let alone growing a garden.
Mm,
So I had to be very creative to run the garden. We also have no agricultural background, and searching online, I haven't find any or a lot of information about growing plants in the desert.
mm,
So I had to experiment myself, and because not everything I read about or see online you can apply it where you are.
yep. Definitely.
Well, so I launched the Nomad Garden, which an experimental garden to find a way to be able to grow vegetables, herbs, and raise animals in this place. It's been 7 years. Yeah, it's been 7 years. Let's say I have been able to grow many types of vegetables and herbs using local techniques. But I would say we have achieved a lot comparing with where we have started.
Mm,
Like when we started, we thought it's like just put the seed in the ground, water it, and that's agriculture.
mm,
But yeah, we are now talking about high complex compost like lactic acid bacteria. Now we have like a compost that we make out of goat's milk, and we use it as a fertilizer for the plants, and it's also healthy for the goats, and we make cheese out of it. So
So
let's say we are
is that using the whey after making cheese, or when you said using goats, uh, did you say that
using,
goat manure?
yeah,
Or
from the goat's milk, we make a fertilizer and cheese.
so when you make the cheese, there's the the curds, and then there's the whey, the liquid that comes
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
So is that what is used as the fertilizer, the liquid?
Yeah, the liquid is the fertilizer is the bacteria. So we you could use it directly to the plants, but we add it to a compost, which is very good to help decompose the organic matter faster, and also it kills the smell. And sometimes we have something with bad smell, we just spray it on it, and then it kills the smell.
Ah, we would have thought that is too valuable as a protein drink uh,
Oh,
to use because we we make cheese from our goats, and one of the problems with that you don't get much cheese out of the milk,
yeah.
and that you have the whey, but the whey is very high protein uh, content, so it's actually a very healthy thing to drink. But I can imagine it also has some inoculating value uh, um, in the fertilizer, apart
Hmm.
from its nutrient content, that it's probably a stimulant to the microbial decomposition. But we would think of it, even in our sort of relatively rich permaculture system, saying, oh, it's too valuable as food to use as fertilizer. But I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know whether there's a tradition of using this at all, yeah, for your people, or what it was traditionally used for.
No, it's something that we learned online.
Ah, wow. Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you know what people
Um,
traditionally, when they made cheese, what they would have done with the way when they were nomadic people? Um, they're old people who sort of remember things about that, or it wasn't something that was used.
Yeah, I asked an old friend and he said that when they have a lot of milk, what they do is just to put like they go to the dunes and they put some hole and just pour the milk and let it to dry, and then they have sort of a dried milk, and they
Ah,
store it for when there is no milk on the goats, and when they don't have food, they use
right.
that as they call it as cheese, and they just eat it. They have also another way of doing it. So they take some let's say a big amount of milk and when they have a baby goat, they let it to drink a lot of milk when and then they take the stomach of the baby goat and they let it dry and then cut small piece and put it on the milk, and then they just let it, and then it will become sort of cheese.
Ah, yeah, yeah. So that's the rennet from the kid's stomach. Yeah, as setting the cheese. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. This is
Yeah.
um, yeah. So just another question: do people still have goats in the camp, or is there not
Well,
feed? Because the pictures look like there is no vegetation. So what could
well,
animals eat?
yeah, yeah. The problem is when people were nomadic, they used to have like a lot of goats or sheep or camel,
Mm,
like a
mm,
livestock, and that's what they depend on.
mm,
And that's the reason why they are nomadic, because
mm.
they stay in one area like for 1 month until the animals have eaten all the herbs around them, and then
Yeah,
they had to move
yeah,
because they need to find another spot for food.
yeah,
The thing is, when they came here to the camps, there is one house next to the other.
yeah,
What? Well, first, you can't have a like a big amount of goats and sheep,
yeah,
and second, you can't move because you are depending on food.
yeah,
If you move, you will lose your food.
yeah.
So, people are kind of changing their lifestyle, and yeah, that's the problem.
And um, so with the sources, yeah, I'm thinking of I mean, I saw the amazing reuse of materials, the tires and all different materials. I got the impression there's a lot of waste industrial materials that you can use in your intensive food systems. But I was wondering what the animal feed, fertility, and produce cycle is like. I saw the pictures of the fish in the water and rabbits, which is yeah natural relationship to the weeds and plant wastes. But do
Mhm.
some people still have some goats for milk?
Let's say 90% of the Sahrawi people have some goats or sheep, like a couple, let's say on average 4 or 5 goats per family.
Oh wow.
Because yeah, because every family have a kitchen waste, and then they have to do something with it, like the vegetable peels and the bread, etc. And then they give it to the goats.
And what else do they eat? Because goats eat a lot of biomass. Do they have any hay or straw or um, material that comes from elsewhere uh,
Well,
or
some
scrub?
some people are making business out of goats. They bring like for dry forage.
Right. So
Um, but
hay.
the majority only gives them like kitchen waste. They add sometimes some people add cardboard if there is no enough
Oh,
food.
wow, wow,
Yeah. And the
wow.
goats love it.
Yeah, wow. The goats are probably more productive on much less food than our goats. Our goats, of course, have an abundance of tree fodder, and we are
Yeah.
in a place with many more uh, plant resources. Most people here think they are problems and trying to get rid of the
Mm,
plants all the time.
okay.
But yeah, because it just obviously beyond the food vegetable production, the possibility to have a stepping stone between tradition, and I'm sure goats are important culturally and to people who were nomadic, that how to have those animals obviously um, not getting to protected gardens, protected sites where you can grow food, but also whether there are trees and shrubs that will grow rapidly and be shelter and shade and provide tree fodder for animals that can be cut and fed to animals. Is there any species of trees that grow in that area, acacias or other things that are palatable and nutritious and would be useful? Because that would seem to me, from a permaculture point of view, to be a very complementary element that could be a component of gardens that are protected, but they're not necessarily food plants for people. But um,
Um, let's say acacia tree grows very, very well here,
mm,
in this place.
mm,
But the thing is, again, we have a shortage of water,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and
So
some
water,
people try to do it like they grow some herbs that are very beneficial for the goats.
yeah,
Uh, but comparing with amount of water that you have, you just can't grow these plants to the goats. And I tried to
yeah,
do it once,
yeah.
but the square that you grow for the goats is not enough to feed them every day, or even
No,
let's say I do it once a week or something. So
mm,
there's
no,
there's a there's a big shortage of water.
yeah, no. It has to be trees that can be established with water, but then are drought hardy enough to grow without irrigation. And I don't know what the absolute sort of subsoil, whether there is any trees that can, there should be some trees that would grow in the desert there that are capable of doing that. But um, returning to the water issue, is the water harvested from roof areas, or how do you, the water that you use in your garden, where does that, the source of the limited water that you have?
The water that we receive is being distributed by UNHCR. So they have like the underground water is very salty. So
Right,
they have
yeah,
this system of cleaning and taking the salt away and eventually distributing the water with a truck for people. So every family have, let's say, 5 tons per family,
yeah,
and these 5 tons are supposed to last for 4 months sometimes.
yeah. So 5,000 liters, yeah, 1,000 liters a month. And so are you harvesting the grey water, the water that's being used by the household for washing or other uses? Where does or is some of that water that you have as an allocation being used directly to grow food?
Yeah, 2 years ago I started using this using this gray water. So I collect all the house water
Mm,
and then it goes to kind of filter, which is from stone, sand, and charcoal.
yep.
And then this water goes to the trees, the non-edible trees, because it has the
Okay.
soap and the chemical stuff.
Yep.
I was looking for an organic soap, so maybe we can filter it and then can reuse it even to drink it
Mm,
or use it for the edible plants, but I couldn't find it. But it's the gray water that we have, it's still good for the non-edible trees.
yeah. Yeah. Do people have a source of um, fuel, any fuel wood, or is cooking all dependent on gas or other imported fuels? Um, what is the
Um, people people here cook using gas, which
yeah,
is comes from I think sup Algeria supports with that. So
yeah,
they send some gas cans, and
yeah,
every time you have your can empty, then you go, they call for it, you wait, they call for it, and then you go to
mm,
change your can with the full one.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the I don't know whether it would be relevant there, but in terms of the grey water and its contamination or difficulty with soap, we find there's two main problems with grey water is the source of fats from a kitchen and then people
Mm-hmm.
using soap to dissolve those fats. And that
Mm-hmm.
combination is really bad in the grey water. And the change of behavior in the kitchen to not have waste fats um,
Mm-hmm.
and minimize any fats that are going into the grey water system. And then that can minimize the amount of soap that's being
Mm-hmm.
used. So then the chemistry of the grey water is then much improved and a bit more suitable. But of course, that's going back into the house domain and changing the behavior of what happens
Mm.
there, which may be someone else's department, if you
Yeah.
understand. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so we find, certainly in affluent Australia, people waste a lot of the fat from animal fat from cooking and just dissolve it all with fats, with soap. Whereas what we do is cook some rice or millet or something else in those fats so you absorb and get all of the benefit. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last resort is wiping the the fats with paper and burning that
Mm-hmm.
as part of starting a fire because we cook on wood. So that
Mm.
because the fat is not actually nutritionally beneficial in the grey water in the soil, it's very bad at clogging all the pores
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
soil. And the more soap and detergent that's used to dissolve that is, also a problem. So
Mm.
yeah, possible ways to maybe improve the usefulness of the uh, grey water. So the other better quality water you're using is some of that allocation from the aid, is it that, that you can
Yeah, yeah,
set
we
aside for growing?
yeah, the water that we use mainly comes from the UNHCR.
Yeah. Okay, and they're getting that from saline groundwater that then they're purifying, uh, putting it through a reverse osmosis treatment or something to take out the salt or something.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you know what the annual average rainfall is in the local area there? How many millimeters a year would fall? Um,
Um, let's say it rains once every 3, 4 years.
really?
Yeah.
Whoa. Uh, uh, because I have been in the Negev Desert in Israel where the average annual rainfall is 50 millimeters, which is drier than anywhere in Australia. The driest place in Australia would be 200 millimeters in a year, average, huge variation because of deserts. But even with in the south of Israel at Beersheba with 200 millimeters of rain, the vegetation and the trees looked similar to what we get with 400 millimeters in Australia because the
Hmm.
air is actually less dry in the Negev
Hmm.
Desert than it is in Australia, which is surprises a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
So, um, but I know there's places in the Atacama Desert in Chile where, yeah, supposedly it doesn't really rain at all, but there is
Mhm.
a moisture sometimes can precipitate using fine screens from
Mhm.
condensation. Do you have any condensation moisture like from cold nights, condensation on surfaces?
No, the thing is that we don't have any moisture here in the camps. So the humidity is zero. And when we have the summer is very strong and the winter sometimes is cold as well.
Yeah, but in that cold weather, is there no condensation of moisture like on
Uh,
on uh, metal surfaces or like
yeah, let's
just
say
off
it
the roof?
happens. Yeah, it happens like twice at the winter,
Wow.
once or twice.
I am sure all of those regions thousands of years ago all had uh, trees and actually had moisture. So when it does rain, is there movement of large areas of water that move, or is it just like very small amounts of rain?
Um, so we have this strong rain once every couple of years, and so it rained in 2015. It was very, very strong rain,
Mm,
destroyed a lot of the houses here because people were building with mud bricks.
mm,
So, yeah, we had one in 2006. I don't know if you had something in between, but in 2015, uh, 2018, and uh, 2023. So yeah, when it rains, there is like water moving, uh, and people actually are afraid of this kind of rains because
mm,
the houses are not very strong.
mm.
But yeah,
And without any vegetation on the ground, there would be big flows of water from higher ground if if there could be uh, surface movement. So, how deep is the uh, groundwater, the saline groundwater? How far under the ground? Do you know?
I don't know because we are not allowed to dig a well.
Ah, ah,
That's another problem.
oh, right. Ah, I see.
I
Um,
have been in another camp which they were allowed to dig a well, and the water was actually very close. You could
right.
find it in 2 meters, and I heard that the people there are suffering from salinity.
Yeah.
So sometimes they grow they put some seeds and they water it, but nothing comes actually out because of the salinity. So
Mm,
there is a layer of salt above the ground.
mm. Yeah. Well, the if if that groundwater is there, of course, that potential to use solar energy to distill water from that is obviously something that just thinking strategically about the dependence on the aid and that these are forces that you can't control of what happens with the government and with international um,
Hmm.
assistance. Certainly, understanding that resource. I'm not suggesting encouraging you to do something which is illegal or
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it sounds like a very severe situation because even that food growing you are doing is dependent on something that is not part of the natural environment and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, this is um uh
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think I'm working on a long goal because one of the challenges that I'm facing here is also a cultural challenge. So some people would say they don't want to have a gardens because they will go back to their land or
yep,
because they still want to practice their nomadic life.
yep,
Um, and sometimes, like I grow kale, which is very beneficial.
mm,
People didn't eat it because they don't know it.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, because people are new to vegetables, herbs, and this stuff.
mm,
So I think these things will take some time.
mm,
Um, but also if let's say we have been able to grow and convince people to eat this kind of herbs and vegetables, what if they go to the nomadic life? What would they do? How they will obtain a garden? So one of the ideas, which is the nomad garden, is to have a small sandponic system on a wagon, because in the nomadic life, every let's say 2 or 3 days, these people go on a well because they know all the wells on the desert.
yeah,
So once they will settle down, they don't go far from these wells.
yeah,
So every 1 or 2 days, they go to this well to give water to their livestock.
yep,
So if we have like some these small sandoponic systems on a wagon, they can take them with this livestock to the well and water them and take them back to the houses.
uh, very good, very good idea. Yeah, because even with the waste of industrial society, the ability to move, to have containers and structures like you've built, and yet have them mobile is something that
Mhm.
the people in the past couldn't move something, justify moving something like that with the limited animals. And but if there is uh, some
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of vehicle, and yeah, this is. This is uh,
Yeah,
uh,
it's
great.
like one of the solutions for the problems because people would say if I move constantly, I can't grow a tree or plants.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
can't
let's
grow
say that
herbs and vegetables and those high nutritionally beneficial complements to the animal products diet and yeah.
yeah.
Mm, right. That's interesting. Yes. So, is your understanding that the traditional territories are still capable of supporting nomadic lifestyle, that the land degradation or climate, it, it still, at least for a limited number of people, could, if the political situation was resolved, that people could, or at least some people, resume that pattern, that there is enough vegetation basically, and as you say, reliable water points for their animals to survive.
Mhm. Um, so here in the camps, let's say people are still talking about this nomadic life,
Mm,
and let's say when in the summer, a lot of people go outside of the camp into the desert to make some tea like every day, and you could see that people are missing this nomadic life.
yeah,
So when it rains, there is like enough herbs for the for animals. A
yeah,
lot of people go outside of the camps and have some animals and practice their nomadic life.
yeah.
So I think they would still do it even though when they go back to the Western Sahara, they would still practice this life.
Mm. Okay, so yeah, we mostly dry fruit. We don't so often dry vegetables, but drying vegetables is uh, a possibility. And certainly in your climate, it should be very easy and quick to do that. The rehydration, of course, the vegetables don't necessarily have exactly the same qualities as a dry,
Hmm.
um, but they still have quite a lot of the nutritional value. Sometimes they
Hmm.
lose color uh, but uh, I think that is one way. The other is to salting, which is sometimes combined with drying, but
Uh-huh.
salt preservation, um, is salt something that is readily available for people?
The
Uh,
salt?
yeah,
Yeah, it's available here.
yeah. Um, because you actually need more salt for salt preservation of things. We think of, oh, well, it's actually something that we associate with being traditional Moroccan preserved lemons. Lemons cut up and packed in salt, and they turn into like a jelly-like material that keeps very well and is, very strong flavor added uh, to food. But I don't know whether the UN provides citrus
No.
and you don't have enough water to grow citrus.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but uh, yeah, so fermentation, salting, and drying would be the things that, and I would see that drying can be done. Like we don't use commercial dryer. Even in our climate, we put things on racks on our metal roof
Uh-huh.
for a few days, and generally, well, we don't have a lot of dust and blowing in the air. Now that could be more of a problem where
Okay.
you are, because obviously there's that risk of dust on the food can be theoretically a source of contamination of other sources of uh, um, uh, risk. So there may be, to dry things, you may need protection, plastic protection, or something that covers something but lets the air, you know, flow still. Uh, is there any experience with drying food?
Yeah, yeah, because the nomadic people, once they kill like a camel, they have more meat than they need.
Ah,
And
yeah.
then they just like cut it like in a small pieces and then they hang it on a tree
Ah,
and
yeah.
then they wait it to
Yeah.
dry. They also they also do it for truffles. So when it rains, truffles grows in the desert.
Yeah.
So they just collect it and peel it, like make some uh uh what's the term? Well, they just make peels out of truffles and then they dry it. Of course, they
Truffles?
say it.
Is that fungi? Truffles?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
fungi. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow.
yeah. So they dry it. Here in the camps. What? How they dry? They still dry the meat.
Yeah.
So they hang it inside the house instead of outside because, as
Right.
you said, of the dust and etc.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Well, maybe it's plenty dry enough where you are to dry vegetables inside the houses too, that you don't need the sun and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wind as much if the air is so dry. Um,
Yeah. Well, even sometimes there is some days that there is no wind, like
yeah.
it's very quiet, but the thing is that you can't predict when the sandstorms are coming, so just to make sure we put them inside the houses.
Yeah. 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 Well, they would be the main methods, I would think. I think fermentation is quite complex. There's lots of different ways to do it. And sometimes people, when experimenting with fermentation, they will say, oh, it's gone bad. And there's a top layer which is
Hmm.
decayed, but often under that, it's perfectly good. And
Mm.
generally with preserved vegetables, um,
Mhm.
the risks of health problems because of, oh, it was bad, so food poisoning results are not as, the risks of that are a lot less than most people um, think. So it's mainly, taste, like, does that taste all right? Uh, it's a little bit like cheeses, and when we make cheese in our environment, various molds on cheeses, and some people say, "Oh no, you can't eat that," like, and yeah, some molds are not so good and taste terrible, but others are actually just part of the cheese culture. Uh,
Mm.
so this whole what is acceptable food, what is bad food, is in a lot of ways more of a cultural habits than it is scientific, like sort of proven that's good and that's bad. I
Oh
mean, in our
yeah.
country, people don't even understand that you can dry meat or hang meat because we hunt wild animals and hang it without refrigeration, just in a screen to stop flies getting on it, and it
Mhm.
naturally starts the drying process, but the meat just matures a bit. And a lot of people find that incredible that it's possible to do that without refrigeration, because here people
Mhm.
have now had generations of having these things. And so, yeah, rediscovering both the traditional things and other things that people do in other parts of the world that are maybe not so different sort of climate from where you are but have not necessarily been part of the tradition to sort of find those
Mm.
other.
Yeah, I think that the tradition is another story. Like I remember showing my father the compost and moving it, and he saw the worms, and he's like, "Oh my God, you should stop that. There is some worm. Oh, this is so disgusting."
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, "No, this is very good."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think some things that the people here don't understand, but we also should consider the traditions and the customs. So
Mm,
what I try to do is to make people understand how these things works and let the society just decide if they want it or not.
mm.
So
Yeah,
I'm not
well,
avoiding the cultures at all. So
yeah, well, I think that's very important from a permaculture design and activism point of view. Firstly, to be the guinea pigs of our own experiments, we say. A guinea pig, was an animal used in laboratories for experimentation, and that we try
mm,
things ourselves and see if we can make it work rather than telling people what they should do. So, sort of show them through example, and also to be innovative and exploratory in trying ideas from different places and the opportunities that come through, like you are using all of so many waste industrial materials to make your systems that wouldn't have been possible for people traditionally in the past. The
mm,
use of tires to make a wall to protect a garden. um,
yeah.
but also, as you say, to everywhere in the world with permaculture to look deeply into the traditions and
Mhm,
learn the wisdom that is in those traditions and at least how it can be reinterpreted or applied in a different context rather than saying, oh no, all of that is no good or primitive or no longer works. And
mm,
I think this is true everywhere. Permaculture in most places is people rediscovering connection to traditions and ways of connecting to land and connecting to nature, and innovations that come from new experimentation or from other places where um, people have maybe dealt with that in some ways. It's interesting. We were talking about you were talking about camels. In Australia, we have more camels than anywhere else, and have the best wild genetics because the camels are all wild here, and they were originally brought for desert transport. And then when trucks replaced them, the camels just went wild. So people treat camels as a pest in Central Australia, but they are very good genetics. Sometimes the genetic
Oh,
people get them from here to take them back to the Middle East to breed new wild genetics into the camels, because we understand, at least in countries like Saudi Arabia, there are no wild camels. They are all domesticated. And that maybe Australia has the only
mm.
really big wild camel populations in the world. So we would love to be able to.
Yeah, I remember my father once looking at the news and he saw like helicopters in Australia killing like some camels, and he was like, "Oh my God, those people are crazy. I wish I could
Exactly.
go there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So from a permaculture point of view, we say this. Yes, it is fine to uh, kill and harvest the camels, but you should be using them. And that's actually what the indigenous Aboriginal people say, that they know the camels are not from Australia, but they say they are of the land. They have
Mm.
moral status, and you can, yes, you can kill and eat a camel, but you can't just kill them and waste them. This is
Yeah, yeah.
completely unethical.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the approach we take in permaculture. All life forms are a part of nature in some way, and it
Hmm.
is good to use them, but you must respect that. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
Are there
uh
other questions or things that you wanted
yeah,
to
I have some
ask about?
questions.
Yeah.
As long as you have enough time.
Yeah, that's okay as long I can. We've probably got another maybe 15 or 20 minutes on this. Uh,
Yeah, okay. I will drop out some
yeah,
questions and you like do a summary.
yeah.
Um, First question. Let me see. Sorry. Yeah, I have someone who offered a support for me to study abroad, and I wanted to study permaculture institution. He is in the USA, and I was wondering if you have some suggestions about permaculture institutions there.
Mm,
And another in permaculture, how far can you avoid plastic nowadays?
mm, yes. Uh, yeah, my knowledge of different permaculture training institutions is a bit limited because permaculture is very, very diverse around the world, many different people. Ideally, it would be good to study permaculture somewhere with some similarity or connection to your climate and potentially even uh, cultural uh, connections. And there is some tension
Mhm.
between sometimes doing that and saying, where can I go to the place where the people are most knowledgeable, most experienced, or have the most status in permaculture so that this can help me at least, not just technically, but credibility with the projects that I'm working on, that I've studied under this person or that person who is well known. Um, so there's all of those tensions because certainly you can go somewhere very different and study permaculture, and almost everything you see and hear about is not directly applicable to
Mhm.
your own context.
Yeah, I think I'm aware about that.
Yeah.
I always wanted to go to Australia because you know
Mm,
about the desert and the permaculture, etc.
yeah.
But the opportunity is only available in the US. So if that's
Yeah.
yeah.
The other resource I would mention is uh, Rosemary Morrow, who is probably one of the most experienced permaculture teachers in Australia, but has worked all over the world in East Africa, in Afghanistan, in Jordan, and in many refugee camps. And that's been
Mhm.
her passion, is that sort of work. So is very, she's now uh, an older person, older than me. She's in her 80s and doing a lot less. But I think um, asking her um, good places and people, especially in the United States, would be useful. So I can send at least a connection so you could be in email correspondence with her. Have you heard of her and her work, Rosemary Morrow?
Mm. Nope.
Right. Okay. I'll just, um, where's um, where's Rosemary's book? Don't have the book here, but we are the publishers of her large book, Earth Restorer's Guide to Permaculture, which
Mm.
is a global manual for permaculture, which ranges from refugee camps to modern urban cities in its scope.
Mm.
So that book also may be a good textbook in terms of a study that you could do with permaculture um, from a distance. Certainly, uh, your English is fantastic. uh,
I doubt it.
well, it's certainly good for this conversation. But so that book is being progressively translated, and that um, so that book. I don't know whether you can receive books in the. Is there a postal system of books that could, if we sent you a book, would it get to you or somewhere where you could get it? Because that would be one
Um,
possibility that we could send you that.
I have an address in Spain, an address of a friend who
Mm.
goes to Spain and comes back.
Mm.
That's the only way of
Right.
sending some books.
Yeah. Because that would be something we could offer in way of support. I think that book more than, um, but there are other books we publish, including, of course, my big book of permaculture theory, the um, philosophical and technical background to permaculture design. But there could be books if you're able to look on the internet that we publish through Meliadora Publishing. That if any of those books you felt were useful, we might be able to send copies. But the other question you had about plastic, we now try to minimize the amount of plastic, especially plastics that break down into microplastics like uh, twine and fabrics, like because I think there is some evidence of them becoming more and more a problem in
Mhm.
soils. In terms of the larger plastics, especially polypropylene pipe for irrigation, we feel those
Mhm.
are so useful and also don't easily break down into tinier and tinier fragments. They're very resistant to UV degradation, but the plastics which break apart very easily, we try and minimize the use of, uh, but it's very difficult. I suppose in the modern world, it's a bit like computers. We would
Mhm.
try and not have systems very dependent on computers for essential functions, but that means we are like running around with one arm tied behind our back on hopping on one leg while everyone else is running.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and it's the same in permaculture historically with using bulldozers and other large machines to do earthworks for water harvesting and other beneficial structures. We see that use of machine and fossil fuel is actually a good use of something that already exists in the world, because we can make earthworks that then potentially people could maintain in a future, even where there are no bulldozers, with hand tools. So this is an opportunity at this time in history to use those things to achieve some larger end. So, and I sort of even have taken the same approach in the use of, in the past, of talking to people about use of herbicides. Although we would never use herbicides in a food system, in our landscapes, trying to plant large numbers of trees in an environment where there is very thick and competing grass. Grass is the worst enemy of actually trying to plant trees in these environments. And in some cases, the use of a herbicide once to establish trees that can live for 100 years is not such a bad use of herbicide compared with using it each year to just achieve, say, growing food, with, of course, all that contamination being a risk. And also the embodied energy in creating the herbicide. So all of the things in the modern world, it's not just their problems in use, it's where did those resources come from? How much are they depleting in the earth? And will those resources be available to people in the future? So, you know, how will Algeria be when there is no oil and no gas? After we've used it all. Now, in a sense, it's silly for that to be a major concern for people in refugee camps compared with people in rich countries where we are consuming all these resources. But from a permaculture point of view, it is both the depletion or the waste of things that could be used for better purposes, and what is the pollution or local problems that will come in the future. So I think when plastics are being used where it's a reuse of something that's already been manufactured, like a secondary use or a reuse, that is, from an ethical point of view, is actually very good, because often these things are otherwise being wasted. And also they are not, from an ethical point of view, they are not a market signal back into the market saying, yes, I want more of this manufactured because I'm buying a lot of it. So when we are reusing things in the way you are doing, that is very good from that ethical point of view, from the what is the problems of what this will leave in the soil. This is still an area we don't know much about. My larger hope is that because plastics are carbon chemistry, ultimately microbes in some form in the soil should be able to break these down and digest these. So I am a little bit skeptical about the idea that these things just break down into smaller and smaller parts, but are never chemically deconstructed, because they're only carbon chemistry. And, you know, microbes evolved to pull apart carbon chemistry. So I see them as a different sort of contamination to things like heavy metals, cadmium, mercury, lead, because these are elemental toxins that life doesn't want. And the only thing that can be done is to sequester them, like in deep soil or in wood of long-lived trees, try and take it out of the soil food system,
Mm.
or have them bound into clay structures. Whereas things like plastics and even toxic chemicals like DDT, that fungi and other microbes, especially fungi, can pull apart these things. So some of the experiments that were done in the United States as long ago as 20 years, looking at how to make chemicals to for wood preservation to stop fungi attacking wood, found that fungi ultimately can break down the most toxic chemicals. So